Hey there, my name is Roseanne, and I have been binge reading my way through 2025. Along with that, I am an artist. This is my second YouTube channel where I like to be a bit creative. And today I'm going to be running my mouth about a lot of the classic sci-fi and vintage fantasy, and even a few of the more modern books that I have read this year. Not to mention audiobooks. If you're interested in hearing some mini book reviews, I've kind of left some space here so I can put up pictures and book names and whatnot. So let's go ahead and get to this video. To start binge reading this year, I went ahead and got onto my Kindle app. This was before I had deleted that app and ended my Amazon Prime and all my subscriptions and whatnot with that. I will leave the video link below about quitting Amazon if that interests you. But before that happened, there was one book that had been on my to be read for about a year, maybe closer to 2 years. It kept showing up in some of the fantasy groups for reading that I was in and getting recommended online. And finally, I was like, okay, I have got to read this book. Do I have plenty of other books right at home that I could have read at that time? Yes, but I wanted to read this book, and it is Empire of the Vampire by Jay Kristoff. And it was a pretty good book. I have read a lot of vampire books, okay? I am Gen X, and that was staple reading for anybody that was into horror or, just weird stuff. It was the vampire thing for a lot of years. So I did like the book, but familiar, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, just because I have read so many vampire books, just a lot. Although I never read the Twilight books, I've seen the movies. Ugh. Anyways, yeah, I did read the second book that goes in that series. I think I read that one in late spring, early summer. So months and months later, I read Empire of the Damned. And both of them were good books. I enjoyed them. They have really cool artwork in there. So that was, yeah, Empire of the Vampire had kicked off my binge reading. And then it got into February, and I was having a lot of health problems in February, so I decided to finally give audiobooks a chance. I kind of done some audiobook listening over the years, but didn't really take it seriously. And I have Spotify Premium, so I decided, oh yeah, I'm going to go ahead and use some of this audiobook features. And I listened to Fellowship of the Ring. Later on, I listened to the Mothman Prophecies. That was the audiobooks I listened to. And I had been venturing out to the thrift stores looking for books again. And I found two Anne McCaffrey books that were part of the PTB series, a trilogy. They were this book 2 and book 3. So I was like, well, I need to get book 1 on the next round of ordering books. But before that could happen, I got a notice that it was time to do inspections for my housing, because they do that a few times a year. And while I like to keep my house tidy, at least once or twice a year, I like to declutter and organize and, do some spring cleaning. And it was spring. While I was doing that, I found the PDB book 1 that I had gotten at a thrift store probably about 8 or 9 years before getting the other 2 books. So I read that series, and it was one of Anne McCaffrey's that I hadn't read yet. It was really good. And then just a couple weeks ago, I finished the Twins of Petaybee trilogy, so another 3 books from that, and it was also really good. I like reading stuff from the 90s and 2000s and kind of seeing that, yeah, some progress has been made in humanity, and a really well-written classic sci-fi is going to, the author is going to be aware, even back then, like 30, 40 years ago, is going to be aware that technology is rapidly evolving, or at least was. And you've got to kind of make it innovative. You don't want it to be too dated. There's been some analog and, well, Isaac Asimov magazines that I've read, because I've gotten into my collection of that. I have Isaac Asimov magazines from the 80s and the 90s, and I rotated them into, the reading pile. I have books stashed everywhere. I'll have to show my dirty little secret for enabling my book problem sometime, but that time is not now. I have been rotating through my books though, and my magazines. And I just read one of the short stories in an Isaac Asimov magazine from 1989 that had the Soviet Union still intact, and the timing of that story was about 5 years from the present right now. And that was kind of fun, Even if they are outdated, it's kind of enjoyable still. Now, because this year has been difficult for a lot of reasons, I've had health problems, family emergencies, just some tough losses. It's been one of the most difficult years of my life. So I decided to go ahead and read a series that had been on my to be read list for almost 20 years, and that was the Elric saga by Michael Moorcock. And I'll put up some pictures. Now, the collection I ordered was 6 paperbacks that had the covers that Robert Good did, and many Elric books have been written after that, but I read that series, and now I've acquired the rest of the books that came later, that some of them, he changed up the order, but I just plan on reading it again. I want to read it again, which is pretty unusual for me. Usually I will read a series once and maybe revisit a couple of the best books that I really enjoyed out of that series, but I want to read this all again. Not even a year after finishing it. I read those first 6 books in a week. All right, I didn't watch TV. It's like I took care of my chores, my real life duties as a, human being, and then all my spare time went to reading the Elric saga that week. It was much needed and very much enjoyed. So along with that, I've also got several other fantasy series going that I have been kind of working my way through for years now. I'm behind on the Shannara Chronicles by Terry Brooks. I'm a few books behind. Sometimes I get into those big, long series and I just get kind of bored with it after a while, or get ready to take a break. I might read those later. I did read the first 4 books from the Ender's Game by, is it Scott Orson Card? I don't know. There has just been so much reading. There was one novel I read, I'm going to put up here. It was just a basic, like, what they would refer to as a dime store trash novel back in the 60s, because that's when that book was published. It was a historical fiction, and I read that between the Petaybee, the first 3 Petaybee series, and then the Elric saga. So I did squeeze in like that random trash novel. It was enjoyable. And I've read quite a few magazines as well. And I plan on doing some videos on some of the magazines that, are still around now that I didn't think were still in print, but they are. And I've been enjoying that. So yeah, it's been nice to switch over to reading. I haven't been making as much artwork. I've kind of just, I don't know, had one thing after another this year, to the point where other than taking care of what I absolutely have to, as far as you know, being a human being and a parent, I want to read. I just don't have a lot of reserve left right now, and my energy tanks because, like I said, it's been one of those years, and I've been enjoying the books. I don't know. I'm going to talk some more about books and just give mini reviews. All the books I've mentioned today were good. I enjoyed reading them, you know. And I've also been reading nonfiction and art books as well. I'll probably share one on here. In fact, I know that I'm going to be sharing one of my newest additions to my collection, to my book collection, right around the same time I'm posting this video. I'll put the link in the description below with the short video featuring my new to me art book. It's actually something from the 80s and it's a lot of fun. Anyway, let me know if you've been reading anything good. You know, does anybody enjoy just picking up a book anymore and reading it? I know people read, you know, and if you just don't know where to start on some of these older sci-fi and fantasies, you know, let me know in the comments section below if there's, you know, a place that you want to start or had questions. I've read a lot of science fiction and fantasy. There is still quite a bit out there that I haven't read yet, so I'm hoping to get to that. But thank you so much for watching. And if you enjoyed this video, please do give it a like and subscribe. I hope to see you here the next time I post a video. Have a good day.